At exactly 9 seconds into the live hearing, Jasmine Crockett dropped a black folder like a guillotine inside a $2.5 million secret tied to Barron Trump's name. Trump didn't blink until the room turned to ice and every camera zoomed in on his silence. This wasn't just a scholarship. It was a transaction bought in power, paid in futures, stolen from America's forgotten children. What did Jasmine uncover that made a former president look like he'd just been caught, red-handed by his own son's paper trail, 9,000 a.m. sharp? 3 red lights blinked on like laser sights aimed at the truth. CNN, Fox, MSNBC. The caption said, "Education, Equity Hearing." But the air felt heavier than that. It didn't smell like justice. It smelled like gasoline waiting for a match, and Jasmine Crockett was already holding the match. Trump sat at the center like a king forced back into the courtroom. He thought he owned tan sharper than necessary, tied tighter than usual. His fingers droomed the desk like he was bored, but his eyes were scanning every corner of the room, like Amen, expecting a sniper, not a congresswoman. No one had expected him to show. The press was blindsided. Members whispered. But there he was, seated under the seal of Congress, smirking like he'd already won a game no one else knew was being played. Jasmine didn't look up. Not at him, not at the press, not even at the cameras. Thought they were already eating her alive. She sat with one hand on a closed silver pen, the other resting on a black envelope thick enough to look dangerous. There was no name on it, no seal, just with the kind of weight that doesn't just bend the desk, but bends consequences. The voice camming like static behind a bomb countdown. Today, we review the transparency and fairness of public education funding. Trump chuckled, low and sharp. Transparency, he muttered. Jasmine blinked once, as slow like a lion, deciding when to lunge. She hadn't said a word, but half the room was already leaning forward, as if they're bedoozened or something their brains hadn't caught up with yet. And then she moved barely. 2 fingers lifted the edge, off the envelope, just a hair, like she was peeling back a secret 1 inch at a time. A Fox News camera snapped to zoom so fast it rattled the feed. Mesby followed suit. A Capitol intern in the back visibly swallowed. Even Chairman Whitmore paused mid-sentence, something about academic diversity metrics, as if he too felt the floor shift beneath him. Trump noticed his jaw twitched. One hand reached for the water glass, but he didn't drink. He watched her eyes, narrowed mouth, tightening, not with arrogance this time, but caution, because Jasmine Crockett wasn't playing politics today. She was playing demolition. The envelope sat still again, but the energy didn't. It was like someone had cut the brake lines on the whole chamber. Jasmine Finelli lifted her eyes. Not to Trump, not to the press. She stared directly into Camera One Live to over 41 million viewers across America and smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the kind of smile you give someone right before you flipped the switch on the electric chair. The hearing hadn't officially started, no questions had been asked, no testimony given. But in that frozen second, everyone in that room left. Right. Staff media realized they weren't watching a hearing anymore. They were watching a reckoning, and the only question now was who was about to burn first. The moment Jasmine Crockett leaned toward her mic, the room held its breath like it knew. The cameras didn't blink. Neither did she. Her voice came out low, calm, razor-sharp. "Mr. Chairman, I'd like to begin with a question about federal funding allocation for high-income districts." Standard opening, polished, measured. But something in her tone made even the stenographer sit up straighter. Jasmine tapped once on her pen. In 2022, public school districts in low-income communities received on average $6,300 less per student than wealthier, and yet somehow a non-public recipient was awarded a single $2.5 million education grant. Can anyone explain how that fits within the department's stated equity model? No answer, just shifting chairs. Tightening jaws. Trump sat up straighter, but still hadn't spoken. His fingers stopped drumming. Jasmine's hand drifted back to the black envelope. She didn't rush. She didn't need to. This wasn't about speed. It was about precision, like a surgeon holding a scalpel above an exposed artery. Because I've reviewed those documents, and what I found is curious. She slid out a single sheet of paper, white, clean, clinical, and held it up like a courtroom exhibit. Recipient, name Barron William Trump. Disbursement date, July 17th. Total amount, $2.5 million. Originating entity, Patriot Future Education Fund. Backed by 3 corporations who received federal tax credits just 6 weeks prior. You could hear the oxygen leave the room. Trump didn't move. For once, the smirk was gone. His expression shifted, but not into anger. It was something colder, like a man who sees a shadow on the X-ray and knows what's coming next. The chairman fumbled his papers. Aides whispered. Even Reppers Matt Gaetz glanced sideways, his mouth slightly open like he just swallowed a stone. Jasmine continued, her words slicing. Now, this isn't a witch hunt. This is a simple math problem. 3 corporations each receive multi-million-dollar tax exemptions. Then those same 3 fund a scholarship for one student. A student who happens to be the child of the sitting president at the time. Trump leaned toward his mic. You're disgusting. His voice was low growling. You're dragging a child into politics. Jasmine's eyes met his finally, and when she spoke, she didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. No, Mr. Trump, I'm dragging sunlight into your shadows. A ripple tore through the room. A reporter in the press section gazed audibly. The chairman tapped his gavel once. Too late. She laid the paper down gently, then slid out another document. This one stamped confidential and read. Internal correspondence from future Ed CEO, dated 2 days before the grant was issued. Deliver full award to BW Trump.DT confirmed approval. Keep optics clean. Trump stood full height, breathing hard, his knuckles white against the polished table. But Jasmine didn't even flinch. She turned back tough microphone and said like reading a recipe. This wasn't just favoritism, it was policy for pay. Bought influence, dressed up as philanthropy. Someone in the back shouted. Cameras cut to Trump's face, his lips twitching like he wanted to explode, but couldn't find the script. The envelope still lay half full. Jasmine hadn't even emptied a teaite, but she didn't need to because the entire chamber had already turned. And the question now wasn't if the scholarship was real. It was how deep the corruption ran. Jasmine didn't sit down. She didn't blink. With the room frozen around her like a frame in a courtroom drama, she reached into the black envelope once more. Slow, deliberate, like someone pulling the pin from a grenade they'd waited years. Toth, if words on paper weren't enough, she said calmly, perhaps you'd prefer something a bit more alive. She slid a flash drive into the panel port. One click. No warning. The screen behind the witness table flickered static, then footage. Grainy times, dated July 2018, a private boardroom, 6 men in suits, 1 woman at the far end, arms crossed, a man at the head of the table, salt and pepper hair, navy tie, leans forward, speaking just loud enough for the entire chamber to hear. It's for the president's boy, consider it goodwill. We clear the deal. The fund clears that check. Gasps detonated through the chamber like gunshots. The word boyhunjin, the air like a curse. Trump's head jerked toward the screen, eyes locked. Matt Gaetz turned completely around on his chair, lips parted. Someone from Fox News muttered, "Oh my God," into a hot mic. Jasmine let the clip end. Exactly 12 seconds. No more, no less. And then she stepped forward just enough for her voice to carry not only across the room, but through every television screen watching live. How many dreams were killed? For one name, she didn't shout it. She cut with it like a blade. Preset glass, until the cracks began to form. Her gaze swept the room, not accusatory, but surgical. She wasn't asking Congress. She was asking America. Trump shifted in his seat again, this time slower. His jaw worked back and forth like a man chewing rocks. A single bead of sweat slid down the side of his temple, catching the overhead light. But he said nothing, because what could Jasmine turned back to the envelope. You've seen the recipient. You've heard the donor. But the real question is she, paused fingers hovering above the final documents still sealed inside. Who authorized it, and what did thee get in return? Every camera in the room refocused on her hand. MSNB says Lauer, third Chiron changed in real time. Breaking Crockett reveals Barron scholarship scandal. Twitter exploded. The hashtag President's Boy began trending within 60 seconds. But reach further yet. She simply lowered the envelope back onto the table, fingers, releasing it like it carried heat. We can pretend this is about one child. We can even pretend it's a charity, but if we follow the money, she looked straight into camera one again, eyessteadymouth.com. We might find out who else's child never got a chance. No one moved. The envelope just sat there, black, silent, waiting. A ticking bombin, a room full of microphones, and the only thing louder than the silence was the question still hanging in the air. What else was she about to pull out? The moment Jasmine's words hit the air, we might find out who else's child never got a chance. Trump snapped like a coiled wire, finally losing tension, sat up from his seat, palms flat on the desk, voice ripping through the silence like a gunshot at a funeral. This is character assassination, he barked, eyes blazing. You're disgusting, dragging a kid into your political circus. Shame on you, Congresswoman? The chamber jolted as if hit by a tremor. Flashbulb sparked. Fox News instantly cut to a split screen. Trump's crimson face on the left, Jasmine's unreadable.com on the right. Aides in the back reached for earpieces somewhere near the gallery. Someone let out a soft whoa. Trump kept going louder, now hands chopping the air. This is what the radical left does. They lose on policy, so they come after family. My son's being hunted on national television because you people can't stand that I built a better America. He pounded the table with a fist. This is an oversight. It's so-rich, but Jasmine didn't move, didn't flinch. Her eyes remained fixed not on Trump, but on the camera. And when she spoke, it was with the terrifying stillness of someone who knows exactly what they're holding. I'm not attacking a child, she said. I'm defending 4.3 million of them. The sentence sliced through Trump's rant like a scalpel across glass. He froze mid-gesture, like Simone had pulled the oxygen out of his lungs. The entire chamber leaned in physically, emotionally as if waiting to see which manhole cover would blow next. Jasmine stood slowly, voice low but clear. I come from a community where kids don't get hidden scholarships. They get closed doors. We're told there's no money, no resources, no exceptions. She nodded toward the folder on the desk. Except apparently when your last name is Trump. Trump's mouth opened, but Theward stalled, caught between fury and strategy. He wasn't used to being outmaneuvered in real time. He looked at Chairman Whitmore, expecting intervention, but the man's gavel hand gone still. Even he wasn't sure what he was witnessing anymore. Jasmine took a step forward. This isn't about your son, Mr. Trump. This is about power. How it picks winners before the race begins. You didn't just break the rules.